Hello, in the last video we have made this save button that would allow the user to save the password after being generated. It opens this interface. In this video we are going to pre-fill the password field, and once the user fills all these properties they are going to be sent back to this interface to be saved to a database. So let's get started. First, I'm going to make some minor changes to this UI by first adding a spacer between the title and the first text field, and then reverting the padding from horizontal to vertical in all these text fields. So here, 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 and here. Alright, this should be able to give some space to all the fields. Alright, perfect. Now let's go to our password generator activity, and in here the save button should be able to send the full object of the saved password to the other UI. So we are going to have to create saved password. So saved pwd equals to saved password, and here import that password equals to saved or generated password. And basically we need to pass this parameter as this object as a parameter to the other interface. But to do this we need to register for activity result. This way, after the user saves the data, we are going to get the result back, and then we can save it to the database. So to do this, I'm going to create a variable at the class level. So here, val, I'm gonna call it activity result reg equals to register for activity results, and in here I'm going to call the activity results contracts, start activity for results, and inside here we're going to set up the logic once we receive the results of the activity. So here results, and inside here we are going to check the results code. So if results code equals activity dot result okay. If that's the case, we need to load the data. So val data is of type intent equals to result.data. Once we get the data, we're going to check if the data is not null. And then what we're going to do is basically get the updated password. Then we can save the password to the database, and then we can show a message. It's going to be a toast. Alright, now to be able to use this variable, I'm going to need to pass it as a parameter to the function here. So add parameter, and then we're going to go back to our button here, save, and we're going to call it. So let's go here and check if it's not null. I don't think it's null because we passed it as a parameter, and launch. And here we're going to pass the intent that is going to be launched. So we'll need to prepare it first. Here I'm going to call intent. So val intent is equals to this. And we're going to add some properties to this intent. So intent dot put extra. And here I'm going to need some variables because that way I'm going to save the name of the extras. So here is going to be a name that I'm going to define in a bit. And here I'm going to pass this saved password right here. So I can just copy this, paste it here, remove that. And once we add this intent, we can launch it here. All right, let's remove this. To be able to send this saved password as an extra, we will have to implement here, we will have to implement serializable. Let's go back here. That solved the issue. And yeah, now we can send this saved password that contains the generated password to our activity. Let's go see what's the issue here. I'm just going to pass here null, and then going to go back to the password generator. Let's add this, and at the bottom I'm going to add this. Alright, now that we configured this, we'll need to go back to our password editor to retrieve the saved password. So let's go back here. At the top here, we are going to get value equals to received value received password equals to. So here I'm going to set up some conditions here based on the build level. So here build dot version dot SDK, I think SDK int is greater than version 33. So it's build dot version goes dot this, and then if that's the case, we are going to call the context, and it should be passed as activity to get the intent. And once we get the intent, we load the parsable extra. And here we're gonna pass the key of the extra that we passed in the previous activity, and then the instance is saved password, like so. Alright, I'm going to go back to this password generator activity, and I'm going to add some companion objects in here. So companion objects, I'm gonna just copy them because I already prepared them here, like this. And I'm gonna copy this before create that I'm going to pass as a parameter here. Alright, let's import it. Now let's go back to this and do the same here for the name. Import it. And yeah, this way, if we have a build SDK that is greater than level 33, we are going to run this command. Otherwise we are going to run the get serializable extra. It is actually deprecated. Yeah, else. Then I have to suppress the deprecation. And in here, we're gonna do the same as this. Then get serializable extra, and here we pass the before create edit password as saved password. Right, this way we are going to receive our password here, and we are going to check if the received password is equals to null. Then what we're going to do is received password equals to saved password. It's going to be an empty instance, and I'm going to move this at the bottom. This way we can pass it right here. Alright, now we should be able to see the password, because once it's received, it's going to be set as this variable here that is going to be used in the interface. So let's run the application to see the results. Alright, so let's generate a simple password. CS starts with CS and ends with PED. Save. Let's view. There you go. There's our password. Now, the next thing we should do is, once the user inputs all the information here, they should be sent back to this activity right here. So let's go back and add this step. So in our password editor activity, we're going to have to change this. So we're going to add a method that I'm going to define here. Send result, and finish. And I'm going to pass the saved password and the context. Let's add it here. So this method would basically set, so the context dot set results. So the result that we're going to pass is result OK. So import that, and then we are going to pass intent dot put. So import that, put extra, and for the extra we're going to add the after create edit password. So the first string was for the before, so before the user updates the password, and here after the user updates the password, and we're going to pass the saved password. And once we set the result to OK, we are going to call context.finish, and this way the activity will be closed, and we're going to go back to this activity with the actual results. So the results will be received here, and it's going to be processed here. What we can do so far is just preview it. So I'm going to add a log here. So I'm going to just anticipate log.d password, and here I need to load the received password. Okay, so before we are going to load the password from the intent, so let's set that up here. Data.get parsable extra, and here is after create edit password, and the class is saved password, like this, and it should be set in this variable. Alright, now this requires this, so we're gonna have to perform the same operation that we have done here when loading the data. So I'm just gonna copy this from here, go back to here, and change the before to after. The context, we might need to add the context here. So for the context, I'm just gonna use the data as the data is an intent itself. Okay, let's remove this. So this is the after create or edit password. We are going to receive the password. Let's then check if password receive is not null, then log the results. Okay, for now it's just a val. Alright, let's run this application to see the results. If we are able to view the actual data that is updated by the user. So generate password, SZ and ends with FS, save. There you go. For the name, I'm going to add name, login data, URL, and then description here. All right, let's save and go back to our IDE to check the logcat. And there's our password. That looks to be exactly what we have set up with the create and update dates. Okay, that seems to be working. Now the next step would be to save this password to a database. So to create a database, I'm going to use the Android room. So let's go to our build this Gradle, and we're going to add some new elements. I'm gonna copy them here. You're gonna find them in the comment section. So I'm gonna add these implementations right here. And for the plugins, I'm gonna add those. This one here. Synchronize project. Alright, that's good. Now let's close this. And first thing is to modify the saved password. So let's go to the saved password here. This is going to be an entity, so let's add the annotation entity. And here table name is password. The title is going to be the title itself. For the ID, it's going to be the primary key. So here primary key, auto generate equals to true, because basically when the ID is set to 0, it's ignored when there is this auto generate here, and whenever there is the value 0, the Android room would increment it starting from 1. So if it's 0 and the last element in the database has 5, the ID is 5, it's going to be set to 6. Alright, then let's go to the create and updates. I'm just going to change their name. So here, column info, and here name is equals to created at. Move, copy this, paste it here, updated at. Alright, that seems to be good. We have our password here. Next thing would be to create the DIO, so saved password DIO, and in here it should be an interface. Sorry. And yeah, let's create the method. Basically, function get saved passwords. It should return a list of saved password, and here the query would be select star from password and order by updated at. And yeah, for now we're not going to use this method, but the thing that we're going to use so far is the insert. So insert here on conflicts on conflict, let's call the onConflict strategy dot ignore and function insert, and we're gonna call the saved password is of type saved password. Alright, next thing would be to create the database. So let's call this saved password DB. This is going to be a singleton because we don't want to open a lot of instances of the database. So first let's add the annotation database. and then entities equals to saved password class, and then version is going to be 1 and export schema false. Then inside this, I'm gonna change it to an abstract class, and inside here, abstract function saved password DIO is the saved password DIO, and companion object. This is going to be volatile private var instance saved password DB. It's going to be set to null at first, and function get database or get instance, whatever you want to call it. We're going to pass context. Let's import that saved password database, and here return instance. Let's call the synchronized. I'm gonna lock this val instance equals to room dot database builder, and we're gonna call context dot application context, then saved password db, and then we're gonna call password database. This is going to be the name of our database, and then build. Okay, once we have our instance here, instance equals to instance, and add the return. Okay, so now this is going to instantiate. Okay, let me just double check this. Saved password database, class Java, context, required room database. Right, if we're going to need to add this parent here. Alright, so now we have the instance of our database. I'm going to add another method to close. So let's override methods. No, this should not be here, it should be here. Override methods, close. And here, after we call the close, the instance should be set to null. Okay, so now we have our database. Next thing would be to create a repository. So let's call the saved password repo. And basically this should have private val saved password DAO, and then we're going to call a worker thread. So worker thread suspend function insert password saved password, and here with context dispatchers.io saved. I'm gonna change this to a lowercase, saved password DAO dot insert password. Alright, now this is good. Let's go back to our password generator activity, and here where we should save the password to the database, I'm going to add some functions here. Basically, I'm going to override the onPause and onResume so as to initialize the database and to close it. So here, override methods on resume, or let's call it resume and here override pause. So basically on resume should initialize the database and open it, and on pause should close it. So for this I'm going to need the variables here, file pwd or save it pwd. I need the repo, and I'm going to also need the saved pwd database. So here late init, private late init, set it to val and var, and here is saved password repo. Going to do the same for the saved password database, and this is the database. Alright, let's initialize those two. So let's go on resume, pwd saved pwd repo and saved pwd database. I'm gonna start with the database equals to saved database.get database, and here is going to call the base content, and then saved password repo, and we're going to pass the saved password database dot saved DAO. Then we're going to call here saved password database dot close. Okay, this way we open the database in the method on resume, and we close it in the method on pause. Next thing would be to save the password to the database. So I'm going to copy this, and in here I'm gonna call the saved password repo and insert the received password. So this is going to be a little bit tricky because here we need to use run blocking to run this on different scope. And yeah, now that should resolve the issue. Let's run the application, and we should be able to save this to a database. I'm going to use the app inspection to view the database of my application here. So let's run this. Let's see our application. Let's give it time to build and to open the app. All right. DAO, yeah, I believe we have forgotten to add the annotation for the DAO. Let me just double check that. All right, let me just review everything before we move forward. The database is annotated with database. The repo, the repository doesn't need to be annotated, and the instance is annotated with entity, so that should be good now. Let's run again. Okay. Let's open the inspector. We have the inspection running. No database. Let's generate a password and then save it. Here I'm going to enter name, log on. Those are the mandatory attributes. There's the password there. Let's save it. There's our database. You can see it here. Let's open it, and you can see our password being saved. those are the attributes. You can see that the ID moved from 0 to 1. Let's generate another password, save it. Here I'm gonna add name 2, login 2, and I'm gonna add a website, for example, .whitebadcodes.com, and a description. Let's save, let's refresh, and there you go. There is the new passwords being saved to the database. We might want to change some minor things in our application, such as the actions to move to the next button. For example, in here, let me just comment this out, and I'll do the same for here as well, because this impacts the preview. Here is saved password, and now we should be able to build the preview here. And let's cast this. Alright, so this here I'm going to add the action or keyboard actions equals keyboard actions on. Here I'm going to need a focus manager. So here, well, focus manager equals to focus local focus manager.current, and here it should be passed as a parameter on next. Let me see what we should do here. Focus manager.move focus direction down, and then I'm going to add also keyboard options, and here keyboard options IME, I think IME action, it's next, IME next. Alright, this way when the user is editing this field here, the keyboard would show a next button that would move him to this, and then I'm going to add it here, and then for the password I'll do the same, password added here, and the website link to the description too. Well, the description is going to be something different, because in the description they will have the done button, and when they click on done, let's remove this, and in this case we are going to check if the password is set. We are going to call this method. This way the on done that is displayed in the description will match what happens in the button itself. Let's go back up, let's reset these comments and pass this as a parameter. Run the app one more time. Okay, now let's open the UI. Now you can see there is a next button here that moves to the next one each time the user clicks on it. And when the user reaches the description, like the website link, now the user is in the description, they see this done button that when the user clicks on it, it should perform the same action as the save button. That's it for this video. If you have any questions, feel free to share them in the comments below, and I'll catch you in the next one.